It's that time of year again, or actually that time of the decade again, where we go out and vote, and we have to lie about what happens in the world around us so we don't have to feel bad. Donald Trump lost the election by 2.8 million votes and won not due to gerrymandering or rigging, but because of the way the Electoral College works. Individual state elections for representatives and such are usually achieved through gerrymandering or rigging an election. Deal with it. Whoever's the incumbent is going to rig the election by changing the districts around. No state or county registers illegal aliens to vote. Full stop. No. The California thing was about them being allowed to have a driver's license only. And it said right on it, not valid for voting in any elections. No one's been allowed to be involved in an election in the United States that isn't a citizen since 1926. And it's been since then punishable by fines, imprisonment, inadmissibility, and deportation. They throw you out and you can't get back in. It's one of the few things that will permanently block you. Chuck Schumer, a senator, never said it's racist to only allow citizens to vote. He did not say that. It is a lie. Move on. The 1880s, 82% of everybody that was immigrating came in from North and Western Europe. From 1891 to 1820, that was only 25% of them. 64% were from Eastern Europe, Central Europe, and Southern Europe. 2010, 15% of Americans were foreign-born. That was the highest number. That's the peak, 15%. It's always hovered below that number or way below. 1926, foreigners weren't allowed to do any of these things you're thinking happen now. That's been against the rules for a long time. Deciding somebody changed the law like that, that would make the news. They didn't make a law like that. From 1940 to 1990, less than 10% of the population was born in other countries. We had a drop in immigration. Decide why, if you want to. From 1991 to the year 2000, there was an increase in the U.S. population that could be attributed to immigration of less than 0.3%. It's not a large number of people coming in. The majority of the increase in the United States was people who lived here, citizens. By 2010, first or second generation immigrants, meaning American citizens. Immigrant means American citizen. Doesn't matter if you like it. They're citizens. You don't have the right to tell them to go home. They are home. This is their home. That's what America's about. Get over it. By 2010, 25% of U.S. citizens under age 18 were first, second, or whatever generation immigrants. Their mother or grandfather or whatever was actually from another country. Which meant if you were talking about immigration policy, 25% of the voters who just newly minted voters could have an effect on whether you got elected by just deciding, you're being a jerk, you wouldn't have let my mother or father or grandfather here. So they became a demographic that became large enough that if you ignored it, you were screwed. Well, no, that's always been that way. Remember 1910? And invalidating the ability to vote because you don't like the way the person looks, or they sound like they might not be recently here, or they might be just recently, or an illegal immigrant, that's a joke. 70% of these people are all in the following states. In order of operations, California has the majority, then New York, Florida, Texas, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, and Illinois. 11 out of the 325 million people in this country, 11 million, are illegal aliens. That's 3.4%. 37 million out of the 325 million are legal immigrants. They're American citizens. So you've got a better than you got a 1 in 4 shot of being right when you yell at somebody that they don't have a right to be here and they need to go back to their home country, of them actually legally being here in the United States and having an equal right to tell you, screw you, I'm an American now. Burn in hell. That's a person who's newly minted American citizen who still has all the same characteristics and the same walk and talk from another country. And if you decide to pick a fight with somebody, you have a 25% chance of being correct that they're actually an illegal alien. That's bad odds. You shouldn't do that. Because a person who just got their citizenship is a citizen, whether you like it or not. And they're not going to act that much different than someone you're accusing of being an illegal alien. And if you don't like that idea, okay, then you get to be profiled because you're driving a car and you got a gun rack in the back. We get to profile you. Yeah. Next. There was a peak of illegal immigrants in 2007. It's been decreasing ever since and becoming stable as far as the total population, and it's stuck around 10 to 11 million people. They're not changing in volume. They're becoming lower in the percentage of our population, not greater. But that's per year or per decade, depending on how you measure it. Let's go on. 75% of the people who are here illegally have been here for over 10 years. Less than 5% have been here for less than 5 years. They're not recent arrivals. Most of them, almost all of them, have been here for 10 years. Even the illegal aliens want to stay here. If we made a law that said if you're an illegal alien and you want to gain citizenship, we'll give you the minimum period of time we can do this in, and if you want to do it, do it. Otherwise, we're going to have to make you illegal aliens. But that would eliminate the problem by just saying, just apply to be an American citizen since you're obviously not leaving. These are people who don't leave. Because if you try to leave the United States after you become an illegal alien in here, you can be arrested and, ironically, jailed and kept here longer. Half of the people who are here, that are here illegally, are here for visa overstays at any one time. That's a person who gained legal access to come to the United States. They applied to come here for a temporary period of time and then stayed over the period of time. Not necessarily intending to break the law. But obviously if someone stayed here for 10 years, there may be some compelling reason, depending on the year. Now we go on to the next stage. 500,000 of the 50 million legal entries are illegal aliens because they overstay. That's the major reason. So 1% of the people coming into this country with permission break the law. So now you've got to deal with people who aren't trying to be citizens. The majority of them coming into the United States, you have a 1 in 100 chance of any of them ever being an illegal alien. What's causing that? I'll tell you. Legally entering into the United States on visas, overstaying your limits, and are now undocumented. The rest all compliant and left on their own. If you overstay by 1 day and you try to leave at the border, they throw you in jail and punish you or assault you because they're assuming you did it intentionally. Some of these stays are for a long period of time and a lot of people just lose track of stuff. But let's assume it's deliberate. That means it's a 1% of the population coming over using legal methods, 1%, doesn't return on time. And that's 50 million a year who comply with the law. 500,000 don't. And what was the total number of illegal aliens in the United States total? 11 million. So that's quite an accumulation, right? Okay, let's go on to the next stage. 55% of the illegal aliens that you can find in any one area will end up being Mexican. Right? Well, there's been an 81% decline of that population from the year 2000 to 2017. Illegal aliens that are Mexican are dropping by population. From 1.64 million was a number that was quoted to 0.3 million. What did increase was the number. It's not an increased number. The number is still dropping. But the percentage of people coming over as individuals coming over, like dad comes over to work and goes home, back to Mexico, is lowering. Instead, you get 3% of them being family units from 2017 coming over, whole families, jumping the border, or illegally overstaying their visas. They just all come over and don't go back. They're trying to escape something. And they're doing it as families, not individuals. That went up to 25% of the illegal aliens in the United States crossing in 2017. So we have more people showing up here with family ties, bringing their families over. But it's still a lower number of people crossing from Mexico. It's dropped 4 to 1 in 7 years, 8 years. No, it's an epidemic. You know what happens when people don't cover something for a while? You just assume it's okay because you're not told about it in the news. And then when people notice it's all dropped, but they notice one or two bad things, then it becomes a big deal because it's the only time anybody sees something. If you literally have a shooting in your town every night, like some cities, you don't talk about it because it's just the same damn thing. It's a shooting every night. But if you're in a town like Portland where shootings are rare, it's big news. It doesn't mean there's an increase or a crime explosion or a crime wave. It just means that something unusual's happened. News is based on novelty, not on frequency of occurrence. Totals for removals and returns of aliens. That means the total number of people told to leave or thrown out. Removal is when you throw them out. Returns are when people return on their own accord after being told your visa's expired, or you've broken a rule, or we have to ask you to leave. These are people who are deportable or inadmissible as well thrown in, but they leave after they're told to leave. Those are returns. These are people who chose to return without fighting it or hiding. Removal, however, is when you physically take them to the border and throw them out. And I don't know what they call it when you hold them hostage here and don't let them go home. We used to have a policy that if you were leaving the country, didn't matter what the reason is, if you didn't belong here, they just let you leave because that way they didn't have to deal with you anymore. Why would you retain them? Fear factor? Are we gonna have a Total Recall movie? Oh no, that's The Running Man. I get those confused. So anyway, totals for both groups are low compared to every year all the way back to 1970. We've had fewer people we've had to throw out or ask to leave. Soft throw out versus hard throw out. 1970 was the last time it was this low. What's happened in the meantime? Well, before 2011, returns, people returning on their own accord, were the largest number. Removals, throwing them out, throwing them out by force, was less often. After 2011, we started throwing people out more often, it seems, and people returning of their own accord were fewer. But that's because the total number of people doing it, needing to be told to leave, or needing to be thrown out, dropped as well. The number of people we had to throw out stayed stable. It's a specific small number of people out of the huge majority of people. Like before 2011, you have this ridiculously large ratio where this many people you had to kick out, this many people you just told them you've overstayed your visa. Most of them were students. They just, I have to go back, I'm sorry. And they just left. There was some proceeding or whatever, but they had to leave. Most of the time they just left. You're untrespassing. We must arrest you and keep you here when we're trying to get you to leave the country. I'm sorry, but that's a little strange. But what happened is fewer people even bothered overstaying their visas. They just left more often. They left before the visa expired or before any kind of action could be taken. But after 2011, the total number of people who were delinquent and leaving on time dropped precipitously. As I said, the majority of people who are supposed to leave the country because their time's up actually do so. They're more likely to comply with the rules. So by definition, if you look at somebody who looks foreign, this is for all of them, not just Mexicans, and you assume they're an illegal alien, you're ignoring the odds that you're wrong either 100 to 1 or 4 to 1 every time you look at anybody. Thank you for watching. Have a good day. Good luck with that.